Hello everyone. Yesterday we discussed about communalism, and today also one very important part of our GS2 syllabus will be covered through this question, and that is civil society in India. Question is, civil society in India contributes to its pluralistic nature by promoting inclusively and advocating for social causes. This approach provides alternatives beyond electoralism and create a more inclusive and diverse society. Analyze. So here in this question, we have to discuss about the merit of civil society. Now, what do we understand by the civil society? We can have a, an idea about it through the speaks. You can see here that this part quadruple is a bin cycle. Actually, we can see here family, state, market, business. If we start from this NGO and MPO trade unions, then social movements and campaign network, then academic organization, faith-based organization, then mass organization such as farmers organization, women organization. Then again, one more picture in this case is this one. See, this part is government and this part is citizenry. Civil society is linked with both of them through this. Now, government public policy means government frames public policy, then related to education, then critical, then citizenry, then dialogue and depth, voting or election, then consensus, bohumot, then government. So they are both linked to each other. So civil society is acting as a mediator between this government and citizenry. Now let's come to the answering part. So civil society organization can be defined to include all non-market and non-state organizations outside of the family in which people organize themselves to pursue shared interests in public domain. So how we are defining civil society organization? As such organization, such non-state organization, or you can say non-market organization outside of the family, where people organize themselves to pursue shared interests in public and public domain. So public domain is there, then you and me are there, then outside our current family, then they are some kind of non-state and non-market. There will organize our interests through shared domain. Now, examples include civil society organization or example ki hobo pare. So examples include community-based organization, village association, environmental groups, women's rights group, farmer association, faith-based organization, labor unions, cooperatives, professional associations, chambers of commerce, independent research institute, and the non-for-profit media. কারণ এই গোটেইখিনিতে আমি এটা বস্তু share কৰো, that is our common shared interest. And where we share it in the public domain. Why do we do that? Because we can draw the government's attention towards those interests so that they can frame the policy by considering our interests. So very important examples are like community-based organization, women rights group, farmer association, etc. Now come to the next part, that is need for an active civil society. Citizens have the right to scrutinize the work of their representatives, to publicize acts such as imprisonment of civil liberties and failure of government to provide a reasonable standard of life for the citizen. See, we citizens have the right, because we select or we elect our representative by voting. See, so we have the right to ask them to means go through our internets. So we actually scrutinize their work, right? We are the ones who can show them actually where some missings are there, some gaps are there, so that a kind of reasonable standard of life will be available for the citizens. Now, Article 19 of the Constitution provides for the democratic rights to protest as part of freedom of expression, although some limited, what we can say is that some limitations are there, but still Article 19 gives us that right that we can protest because we have the freedom of expression. Right to participate in an activity should not be restricted to politics and election alone. Then without these rights, democracy becomes just an illusion. So civil society cannot be conceptualized independent of the state. Civil society's function contribution to good governance. We all know what is good governance and what are the criteria of the good governance, isn't it? We have discussed this in one of our previous lecture of this model question answering session. So now, how civil society contribute towards framing a good governance or towards functioning, towards a good governance functions? First is watchdogs against the violation of human rights and governing deficiency. Watchdogs, so that no violations of human rights can take place. Then advocate of the weaker sections of point of view. Then agitator on behalf of aggrieved citizens. Educator of citizens on their rights and entitlements and responsibilities. And the government about the pulse of the people. Service provider to areas and people not reached by official efforts or as government's agent. Mobilizer of public opinion or against a program or policy. The way include Right to Information Act, Consumer Protection Act, Citizen Charters, Whistleblower Protection, E-Governance, Democratic Decentralization, Public Interest Litigation, etc. So see, their contributions are watchdog, advocator, agitator, educator, service provider, mobilizer, and some other ways, by which they can do these tasks through right to RTI, Consumer Protection Act, Citizen Charters, Whistleblowers Protection, E-Governance, Democratic Decentralization, Public Interest Litigation, etc. Now, what are the roles of the civil society? These are the tasks that they did. Now the role. In a large developing country like India, there are numerous gaps left by the government in the development process. These are the gaps the civil societies try to fill in modern India. Some kind of gaps are there in the development process. So these gaps will be watched by the civil society and try to fill them. Now, supplementing the government's effort to provide healthcare to the citizens by raising awareness in society about issues like, child and maternal malnutrition. Today's we have the very serious problem like child and maternal malnutrition. So these things can be decreased only through awareness among the society, and this will be well done by civil society. Then a number of NGOs like Childline India Foundation, World Vision, Aram India have played important role in raising awareness on child sexual abuse. So we have to remember the NGO's name: Childline India Foundation, World Vision, Aram India. At least দুটা এটা মনত ৰাখিবই লাগিব. Childline India Foundation, Aram, World Vision. They are raising awareness on child sexual abuse, which is again a major problem of India. In the last 20 years, a very large number of NGOs in India have been active in the area of environmental protection, and the NGOs have often been held by the judiciary whenever the government of the day has proved unresponsive. When government is unresponsive, then judiciary comes to help these NGOs. Now, engagement of the civil society and the media in educating citizens about the evils of corruption, raising their awareness levels, securing their partition by giving them a voice. See, corruption is a kind of problem which is really very serious issue in our Indian society. Not just Indian society point of view, everywhere this is a major problem. And some famous author said that to remove corruption from a democratic country is just like same as asking or restricting a fish to drink water in an ocean. So these two things are being equivalent. So both are kind of impossible tasks. But this can be reduced through the civil society's active participation, because citizens should be ethically sane in this case. If some kind of change in the ethics should be taken place, because corruption is acting as a guise grease, we know na, grease in government tasks or government bureaucratic works. It is well said that when some kind of grease are there, then the action will be mobilized, the tasks will be easily done. But why we have this behavior, why we have this thinking in our society, means this means an acceptance of corruptions in the society, isn't it? So this can be reduced only through a moral change in the ethic, and that can be done only by the active participation of the civil society to increase the awareness among the citizens against the corruptions. That is the voice. So civil society can influence policy and project formulation through membership of committees and submission of memoranda. But few limitations of civil society are there, like misappropriation of funds. Many NGOs don't have sophisticated finance and legal teams, nor do they have the funds to conduct the audits. So this is again a major problem, because lack of fund is there, and one thing, some funds are coming, but where those funds are going, that is again a issue. Then issue of foreign funding. According to government data, a total of 3,068 NGOs receive foreign funding, like 22,000 crore in 2014 and 15. It is often said that foreign funded NGOs try show some problem is going on in the network. So I'm repeating again, just a minute. Okay, so issue of foreign funding is there. According to the government data of 2014-15, 22,000 crore received as foreign funding. But it is often said that foreign funded NGOs tries to propagate the foreign propagator to stall development project. You know, we have a famous example. You all might hear about this Kudan Kulam project. Kenekoi foreign propaganda foreign funded NGOৰ দ্বাৰা, মানে foreign funded মানে foreign countryৰ পৰা অহা ফাণ্ড, সেই ফাণ্ডৰ জৰিয়তে কিছুমান ফৰেইন প্ৰপাগেণ্ডা, তাহাঁতৰ কোনোবা এখন ইণ্টাৰনেশ্যনেল কাউন্ট্ৰী নিজৰ প্ৰপাগেণ্ডা বিস্তাৰৰ কাৰণে তাহাঁতি সেই NGOৰ দ্বাৰা ফাণ্ড দিয়ে। আৰু এটা বহুত ফেমাছ এক্সাম্পল হৈছে কুডান কুলাম প্ৰজেক্ট, য'ত নেকি এতিয়া আকৌ সেইটোৰ ওপৰত এটা ডিছকাশ্যনলৈ নাযাওঁগে, কিন্তু ইয়াৰ জৰিয়তে তাত কিছুমান ফৰেইন ইনফৰমেশ্যন বা ফৰেইন কাউণ্ট্ৰিজ ইনভলভ আছিল, কেনেকৈ প্ৰটেষ্ট হৈছিল, মনত ৰাখিব, এইটো বহুত ডাঙৰ এটা প্ৰটেষ্ট হৈছিল কুডান কুলান প্ৰজেক্ট। চ' আৱাৰ কেছ ইজ ডেট the issue of foreign funding is there because of the propagating the foreign propaganda. Then non-accountable, non-transparent, undemocratic functioning. CBI records filed in the Supreme Court show that only 10% of the total registered NGOs under the Societies Registration Act file annual financial statements. So only 10% total registered NGOs. We have a lot of NGOs in our country. Even this number is so big that, you know, you'll be surprised to see that in a developed part of India like New Delhi, so many NGOs are there. What they are doing is really a questionable mark. So CBI records filed in Supreme Court show that only 10% of the total registered NGOs under the Societies Regulation Act filed annual financial complaint. What about the 90% left? Think about it. Then money laundering cases, there corrupt or unscrupulous NGOs that receive foreign funds may serve as conduit for money laundering. Money laundering or karone use kora hoy NGO, black to white conversion. Then accreditation remains a big challenge, as it is very difficult to distinguish whether an organization wants to work for the cause or has been set up only for the purpose of receiving government grants. Is it really that organization is working for some causes, or is it just set up for purpose of receiving the government grants and the money just like push? They have been just absorbed, but the cause left unsolved. So that should not be the case, but these things are happening. Over-dependence on funds from the government dilutes the willingness of the NGOs to speak out against the government, because they have to depend on the government. Otherwise, some kind of restriction might be, or some kind of, you know, what I can say, some kind of stops on their activities be ordered from the government. So this actually makes them thinking about their existence, so that that again leads to that they should not speak anything against the government. Then NGOs are often seen as encroaching on centuries-old tradition and culture of the people and lead to mass protests at times. Ban of Jallikattu after the PIL by PITA is one such example. Means sometimes NGOs are seen as encroaching our old traditions and culture. So, and one such example is ban of Jallikattu. আমি জানো তো এনিমেল প্ৰটেষ্ট, এনিমেল ৰাইটছৰ গেইনছত হৈছে, এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ প্ৰটেষ্ট অলপ ওলাইছিল, সেইটো কাৰণে বেন অফ জালিকাটু হৈছিল। চ' এখন PIL ফাইল কৰিছিল পিটাই। নাও what will be the solution? What will be the way forward? A National Accreditation Council consisting of academician, activists, retired bureaucrats should be made to ensure compliance by NGOs. So some kind of National Accreditation Council should be there, which will be consisting of some experts like academians, some activities, some retired bureaucrats who have enough knowledge in their respective field, so that they can actually guide the NGOs, or actually they can find out some gaps left by NGOs. Okay, so that NGO will compliance, so that towards their guidance. Then there should be better coordination between Ministry of Home Affairs and Finance in terms of monitoring and regulating illicit and unaccounted funds. So some kind of better coordination should be there. Then a regulatory mechanism to keep a watch on their financial activities of NGOs and voluntary organizations is the need of the hour. Regulatory mechanism is the need of the hour, because without regulation, very some kind of black to white, or some fun, some invisible kind of funds, this thing will happen continuously. So we need a regulatory mechanism. Then citizens today are keen to play an active role in the processes that shape their lives, and it is important that their participation in the democracy go beyond the ritual of voting and should include promotion of social justice, gender equity, inclusion, these things. So we need citizen participants. Citizens are nowadays smart enough, literate enough, so that they can contribute by their choices or by their own feedbacks that how we can go for social justices, gender equity, inclusions, these issues through the participation of NGOs. Then the government should frame guidelines for their accreditation and the manner in which this organization should maintain their accounts and the procedure for recovery in case they fail to submit their balance sheets. Avoid tussle between Home Ministry and Finance Ministry by bringing the regulation of NGOs under one head. Then General Finance Rules 2005 have mandated a regulatory mechanism for the NGO, and a comprehensive law in line with these rules should be framed in no time. So we have to apply this General Financial Rules 2005 as a regulatory mechanism for these NGOs, and one comprehensive law in line, so that this rule will be framed and this rule will be imposed for the regulatory purposes of these NGOs. General Financial Rules 2005. Then how we conclude? NGOs, pressure groups, we know about pressure groups, right? Then CSOs, this formed as the backbone of the democracy. Yes, that is true. They are contributing towards the democracy. Democracy does not just revolve around election, but how the rights of the citizens are protected and are allowed to hold power holders are accountable. So democracy is not just kind of election, but the actual thing is that how our rights will be protected, how the power holders, means those ministers, will be accountable towards our right. The state must respect the articulation of the politics of voice and not just the politics of the vote. So state should listen to the voice, not just to the vote only. That promises of democracy can only be realized through collective action in civil society. A democratic state needs a democratic civil society, and a democratic civil society also needs a democratic state. So both needs each other. So they mutually reinforce each other. So to make their both of their functions active and make them proactive, make them protector of our rights, our voices, they should mutually reinforce each other. So with this, I'm concluding the answer of this question. That's enough for today. We'll meet in the next session. Thank you very much.